So today I'm very excited. I have Nick Checker. My friend Nick is back and better than ever. Nick has 4 books that he has published to date, and today we are going to go through and talk about each and every single one of them, the 4 books that he loves and he's so proud of, and he should be because they're well-written books and they tell amazing stories. And Nick, welcome. Thank you for being a guest on my show.
Thanks for having me back again, and thank you to the master of the studio, Reggie, for the hot chocolate, the water, and fixing the machine.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
The man is brilliant. The man is brilliant.
He is, yeah, smart and handsome too.
Yep.
So Saga Marathon is a book that you wrote, and it's about the real story of the marathons in Greece, right? So
Yes.
You wanted to do just like a little brief synopsis of it and then maybe read a paragraph from it. So what is the gist of the story, if we could just sum it up in, I don't know, 50 words or less?
Well, it's the story of the foot courier, the ancient Greek foot courier, legendary courier, Phidippides, who ran from the battlefield of Marathon to the city of Athens to actually warn of an impending assault by sea from the Persians. Darius I, as the first Darius of the Persian Empire, was seeking to basically take out the known world.
Interesting. So tell me a little bit about Philippides as a character. What was he like? Was he strong and brave, or I'm sure he had his own struggles?
Well, Phidippides is lost in the mists of time. He was a foot courier, and ancient Greece had ancient Athens had a network of courses that couriers ran, say, as opposed to courier pigeons. They didn't have phones or anything.
Or no bicycles either.
Nothing.
They didn't ride bicycles. They had to run if they wanted to.
The foot couriers did all the messaging. And so in this particular story, I have envisioned Phidippides as an untested teenager, young boy who basically just delivers messages from village to village, no more than 4 to 6 miles maximum. But there were the hemerodromai, the elite foot couriers, who ran distances between, anywhere between 50 and 100, 150, 200 miles.
So he was smart, athletic. Was he kind, generous,
Well, this
obedient?
Phidippides, as again, I call this a historical fable because it blends mythology, history, and legend.
Absolutely.
And this Phidippides is 16 years old, and he is what is known as the classes, the perioki. They were the lower class. He is the son of a hetera. A hetera is a woman of pleasure who government officials, military people, anyone of stature can acquire the services of a hetera. Pericles was known to have a hetera, by the way. So, but they, basically there's other names you might have for them, but woman of pleasure. And he is the son of a hetera. And his father, Captain Boros of the elite Athenian Guard, is his father, who he cannot declare is his father.
Sure.
So you cannot make known your affairs of the hetera. It is done very, very discreetly.
So he is known to be a child of an unwed mother, and
Yes.
then has no claims to anybody outside of his mother. And there's a lot of shame and guilt probably that's associated with that, or not?
Well, from the judgmental public there is. And not that anyone today of higher stature would do such a thing, right? So Phidippides can never be acknowledged by his father. He has accidentally discovered who his father is.
Does the father know that Phidippides?
He knows.
He always knew.
He knows
Okay.
this is his son.
Does he do anything to support him or help him?
Yeah, but discreetly.
Okay.
But what this young boy wants is to do something more significant for Athens. Athens founded the first democracy under Cleisthenes.
Of course.
And it is a fledgling form of government where of the people, democratia. And often far off Persia, the idea of rule of the people is frowned upon, and now it is regarded as a threat. Darius, because the Athenians once helped some vassal Greek cities try to liberate themselves from him, is bound and determined to come in, destroy Athens, and especially to knock out this concept called democracy.
So does Philippides...
Pheidippides.
Does Pheidippides understand the importance of this courier mission that he's on?
Yeah, well, he's initially not on it. He doesn't expect to be on it. What happens is when they know an attack is coming, when they know the Persians are coming and they're going to land in Marathon, the Athenians send out a force to block them.
Okay.
And to try futilely to stop them because they are grotesquely outnumbered.
Of course.
Now, if they can stop them at Marathon, they can put a dent in Darius's plans, maybe even dispel the attack.
Okay. And you've got a paragraph you want to read to us.
Yeah, but first I want to tell you that what happens is they do stop them. Pheidippides goes along as a citizen, as part of the citizens' militia.
Mm-hmm.
As badly as he's been treated by the mores of the Athenian government and their social customs, he still feels a patriotism, a loyalty to his city-state. Greece was broken up into a bunch of city-states, and Greece wasn't even called Greece then, though I use it. It was known as the Hellespont. And so he's at the battle, and what happens is the Persians have been beaten by the incredible strategies of General Miltiades. But what they've done is they've boarded their ships. They're going to sail around the coast, land at the port of Phaleron, which is not far from Athens, and hit the city before the army can force march back. They need a courier to run back the 26 miles. It's 26 miles roughly from Marathon to Athens, which is why these races are called marathons.
26.2.
And he has to warn them, not only tell them, rejoice, we conquer, but he has to also let them know, but beware, the Persians are coming. They're going to come by sea instead. And he's kind of a Paul Revere at this point. He has never run, this Pheidippides in my story, has never run more than 6 miles. And now, in over 100 degrees heat and humidity, he has to run back. Now, there's no Nike shoes, there's no water stops, there's no support. There's beasts and bandits, hills, the worst hills going. This book was, by the way, endorsed by Amby Burfoot, who did run that marathon. He went to ancient Greece, ran it, and basically Amby also gave he gave the address to the public when I first had this book introduced at Bank Square Books and Mystic. So there's a point in this story here where Pheidippides hears howling, and he is convinced that these are the wolves, and he's heard all these ridiculous legends about how terrible wolves are and they'll hunt you down.
Well, if you just think about it, the heat, the dehydration, the lack of training, the fear, and the important message that he's carrying, those 5 things compelling him to move forward. So go ahead.
Yeah, so there's this moment, and he has given way to the legends, which are nothing but legends and falsehoods about wolves. They're just predators like anything else. They don't hunt people, but in his mind they do. And now he's in a moment where he's suffering from the heat, the exhaustion, everything. And there's this one little paragraph that I just like. The howling increased, and then he saw clearly the first of several canine shapes loping like long gray shadows into his scope of vision among the scant bushes and rocks. Finally, he beheld his first wolf in the wild. It bounded out into the narrow clearing, husky and ash gray, the thick fur covering a muscular frame that flaunted the natural beauty of its wild existence. The bright yellow eyes harbored a primal intelligence, all too willing to challenge either man or animal for mastery. Now, I love wolves, so I just had to read that section there.
Nice, very nice.
You know.
Thank you so much. And let's show the cover of it.
Yeah, this is a raggy copy.
That's okay. That means it's loved. Yeah.
Yeah, from which I still work. I don't.
Okay, that's good.
I've got new ones on order.
Yep, and I want one. Okay.
It was published by Wild Rose Press out of New York.
Okay.
It's a traditional publisher where you submit the book to them and they have to accept it. I always like to point out none of my books are self-published. They were published by the traditional publishing. It's a medium-sized house. They're absolutely wonderful.
Perfect.
And
Okay. So, in the interest of time, I know we wanted to start, noticing. So we've already 10 minutes in. You want to do the legend of Quai
Yeah, the
Coast?
legend of Quai Coast. By the way, my compliments to Reggie. This is magnificent hot chocolate.
And I get to smell it, so it's just phenomenal. So this is another book that you are so proud of, and this is one of your more recent.
My most recently published book, also by Wild Rose Press of New York.
This so we can pull it up.
And this is...
Pulled it up?
Oh, yeah.
You see? Good, okay. It's a beautiful cover, and yeah, okay.
Jessica Shakara Grief was the artist. She was one of the Wild Rose Press artists. And this is a young adult novel, but it is has a great appeal to adults, too.
Compelling story, and give me a synopsis.
Well, this is the tale of a rebellious young dolphin. It is set in the world of sea creatures. And it is a rebellious young dolphin who challenges the very rigid, fanatical ways of her strangely reclusive pod of dolphins. And in other words, instead of roaming the seas and being the freewheeling, joyful characters they are, they huddle and they stay within the confines of a coast and in a cove, preparing for what they believe is an invasion by another species.
Sure.
Which in the story they're called the snagtooth sharks. And they have a fanatical, very rigid Commodore, known as Commodore Ramstrong, who basically believes that the sharks will one day mass together and try to take over all the seas. And allegorically, we, in our world today, we have those kind of beliefs too. This species, that species. And he has good reasons for feeling because of his past years when he was a young dolphin. And he has wielded a great amount of influence. And this young dolphin, Piper, challenges that.
So Piper is a beautiful young...
Yeah, if Piper were a human, she'd be a teenage girl.
Sure.
And she doubts... None of the ways of the clan are making sense to her. She's also done the forbidden activity of conversing with the harbor waifs, porpoises, but they call them harbor waifs. It's kind of a derogatory term. And she has learned from one of these porpoises named Lofin, and Lofin has explained, no, your clan does not behave like the whistling kin, which is what they call the dolphins. This is not the way of your species. And she explains to her. And it coincides with just the general thoughts this young dolphin has on her own. And it lands her in trouble with the clan.
Sure.
And she eventually gets exiled, winds up in the open sea, and discovers from a great creature there, known as a ghost fin, which is a gray whale, what's really going on in the open sea.
I don't think you want to tell us anymore.
No.
I think you want to stop right there, unless there's a paragraph from your book that you want to read that would lead up to that. Or...
I wouldn't be able to find it, but the point is, she wonders, do I go back?
Of course.
Do I try to warn them? They exiled me, and will they even believe me? You've seen how adult figures sometimes scoff at what young people have to say and offer, and it's no different in this world. Will they believe? And she chooses to go back, and that leads to some intriguing things. Yeah.
So universal theme. We all have an experience with that.
And again, the Wild Rose Press. Both of these can be ordered through Bank Square Books in Mystic. Avery Point Yukon Bookstore also handles The Legend of Quai Coast.
Absolutely.
They're both also available on Amazon.
All right.
I think if they went over to the Title IX bookstore by the Guard, that's also owned by Bank Square Books in Mystic.
Oh, lovely.
They could order either of these through them, or just go to Amazon.
Okay. And your third book is Scratch. I'm sorry if it feels like I'm rushing you,
no,
but it's
not
always
at all.
in the interest of time that we can cover our objectives.
Right. Let me hold it up.
Scratch. And this looks like a big cat with a big full moon behind it.
Yeah, this was first published through Oak Tree Press out of California. It's a very small publishing house. And there was a very gifted artist named Katie Lloyd. And she still does tremendous artwork under the name Catherine Lloyd Grossi, Grossi. I asked if they would be interested in the design she might come up with. The publisher said, well, let's see it. They liked it and they took it. And right on the cover.
Which doesn't always happen.
Yeah, no, it was very bizarre. So right on the cover it says, a rousing tale of loyalty, friendship, and courage set in the mysterious world of feral cats.
Interesting. And I saw a bumper sticker on your car today about feral cats.
Oh, yes. I take care of them all the time. My indoor cats are rescues, and there's ferals that visit me, and I've taken care of them for a long time and always will.
I heard a story about that. Yeah.
They're great friends. They're great friends. And so in this story, it's a legendary tomcat who tries to save. He returns to his old clan.
What is his name?
White Saja, S-A-J-A, White Saja, because he's pure white. And he's based on a cat that used to visit me when I lived in Mystic. I called him the Ghost. And as I even say in the book I mentioned, I got to wondering where this Puss in Boots of the forest went when he wasn't sitting outside, basically flirting with my windowsill princess Prowler, who was an indoor cat. And a story came to me. And that story was very intriguing about what was happening to his old clan and how he goes back to try and straighten them out.
Who, Princess Prowler or White Saja?
White Saja.
Okay.
Yeah, Prowler was my cat.
Right. Okay.
And so the ghost cat that visited me basically gave rise to White Saja. And I dedicate this book to that wonderful cat that I used to feed. And what happened was I read something in the paper, something that really upset me, and it caused me to take this short story I wrote about White Saja and expanded it into an entire novel. And so this got accepted by the small press publisher, Oak Tree Press out of California. But this in my other book that I'll be talking about in a minute. What happened is it had a happy life out there, as did Druids, the other one. But what happened is the publisher had a stroke.
I really want to focus,
Okay, but this is...
Best wishes for those who have suffered any illnesses, but I really want to hear about Scratch and White Saja.
Okay, but I just wanted to let you know that's why Scratch and Druids are no longer available through Oak Tree Press.
Oh, got it.
The company basically went under when she died. It was a small press.
Right.
Traditional press, just nonetheless. So Scratch and Druids are now only available through Amazon.
Okay.
Is why I told that.
Okay, I see.
But he has to basically try, and there's a clan of rats led by a giant known as Feng, F-E-N-G. And he has to basically defeat this giant rat, which he does, but he spares him because he fought so well. And the old clan he goes to rescue basically cannot understand that he showed mercy. And he thought, well, what do you know about fighting? What do you know about defending yourself? Feng fought well. He was noble. I chose to spare him. And what happens is, as the story goes on, we learn that there's another predator coming after both these clans. And he goes back one more time and learns of this very dangerous predator that is doing these horrible things at the expense of both the cats and the rat clans. And he has to convince them, stop fighting. There's something worse coming after both of us. So that's the basic story of Scratch.
Interesting story. Interesting.
And of course, in this story is one of my favorite characters I've ever created. There is a legendary boogeyman of sorts in there that they all fear. That he's known as the Hound of the Hill, this ferocious hound, who, the type of creature, when people would say to you as a child, be good or so-and-so will get you. Well, this is probably what rats and cats would say to the younger ones or their kittens. Behave or the hound will get you. And there's a point in Scratch where they have to go seek the help of the Hound of the Hill of all creatures because he's the only one that has the answers. And they discover something about old legends when they finally meet the Hound himself. And he's you know, if I had it, well, if there was something I was going to read, I wouldn't be able to find it. But the description of the Hound of the Hill is one of my favorites. I just really liked him and what he was about.
Beautiful. Okay, thank you. And then Druids was your first
Yes.
piece that you did?
Yes, my first novel to be accepted.
Okay.
And it takes place in it's a fantasy tale. I love Tolkien, Michael Moorcock's works, anything that deals with magic, knights, adventures, or again, Lord of the Rings, to me is arguably the greatest fantasy ever written. Though Michael Moorcock's novels, like the Swords trilogy, I love them just as much because of the intellectualism of this man. And
so
I wanted to create something of my own. So I came up with Druids, where we have 3 very unlikely comrades.
Let's hold up so people can see the cover.
And Katie
Lloyd.
Lloyd.
Down a little bit. Down.
Katie
there.
Lloyd also designed this cover.
That's nice.
And
can I take a peek?
Yeah. And so Druids is a tale of 3 unlikely comrades trying to save their ruined land from a deranged sorcery, from a deranged druid who is another who cannot tolerate anyone that does not fall under his immediate commands.
And where is this located?
This is in the land of Cate, which I created. This is where Tolkien created Middle-earth. I created the realm of Cate.
Okay. And where would Cate be if I was to...
If you were to... I was asked this once when I spoke at a writers' conference. I compare it to the lands of England, the lands of medieval England, though they're different. But I based it on the Druids. I based it in I had to go study Druid lore, and also animism, which is very akin to Native American Manitou, a belief that there is a life force within everything.
Absolutely.
And so there is a science of sorcery known in this as the cryptic sense. And the cryptic sense deals with a kind of a form of telekinesis. And it's to be in tune with the elements so well that you can command them yourself. And this young boy, Turi, T-U-R-I, Turi, again, about 16 years old, not considered a warrior type, but he has an uncanny sense.
So he's in tune with the elements.
And what happens is when their land is ruined, they have to go... I based it in part on a game of chess. Because I did a lot of chess playing, and I thought, what if a game of chess were ever to come to life? So I have characters in here who will make you remind you of chess, and the way they work, the way they move. Turi, they refer to them as pawns, P-O-N-S, like a pawn.
So Turi would be a pawn? I'm thinking he'd be more like a bishop or a rook.
Well, at this point, he's not. But he has a mentor who is like a bishop. But this story introduces a female knight, Lady Jadianne, who since the time she was a teenager wants acceptance as a warrior in a male-dominated war culture. And so the 3 that have to go out and try and rescue their queen, you know, once a queen is captured, in chess you have to make it to the end of the board, and then that pawn can become something greater. Well, their queen is captured by Chrysil, the Druid Lord, and the 3 that have to go out and try and rescue her, we have Sir Garth, who has absolutely no respect or regard for the notion of a woman in combat or for druids or any form of sorcery. We have Turi, and we have Lady Jadianne. The 3 of them are the ones who have been selected to go on this quest, and so it's a journey, and they meet many things. One of the places where this is an interesting concept, I created a horror in here no one else has or has done since. It was during a hurricane when I was listening to the howling and the moaning of the winds, and I said, wow, that sounds like all the souls of the damned trapped within that storm. And then I thought, wait a minute, what a premise. And that was the beginning of Druids. And so I have, let's just say, a sentient storm. And there's a whole concept of how that sentient storm comes to life. At the end of April, I believe the 29th, Sunday the 29th, I'm going to be doing a presentation of Druids.
What time?
Probably around 1 o'clock.
Okay.
And it's at No Other Book Like This, a fledgling bookstore that took over from the old paperback trader in Groton. This one is now...
Where is that located? I don't even know.
Well, No Other Book Like This is now right across from the train station in Mystic.
Okay.
Right, you walk right across the street, you'll bump into it.
This is the fourth event I've been invited to
Yeah.
on April 29th. Usually my calendar doesn't have that much going on. April 29th.
They have relocated, and so it's going to be a combined event. The relocation of that No Other Book Like This, and Lee Howard's going to be doing a story about it in the paper.
Nice.
And my Resurrecting Druids, because Druids can be purchased at No Other Book Like This in Mystic. And Amazon too, but also there.
So this is definitely young adult. This is young adult.
I would say young adult with an appeal toward older readers.
Absolutely, I love
all four of them.
Well, and I like picture books. I like illustrated books. I like everything. And this is.
I'd say the same thing.
Okay.
The age range. Well, I've had 11-year-olds read this and discuss it with me intelligently.
Nice.
And I've had senior citizens read it, and I've had people read it in no time, like in a day.
Well, it's kind of fun to have a quick read too, and something that's really compelling.
I like to feel they both move. All four of them move fast. A student of mine once asked me, "How do you know it's a good book when you're reading it?" I said, "I turn the page."
It's a page turner. It's a page turner.
Yeah.
Nick, as always, you're an amazing guest. Love having you on. Thank you so much. Any final words or words of wisdom to writers out there? I think just keep writing, right? Just keep your pen to the paper, or keep your tablet going and write.
Well,
right?
as the guy in Galaxy Quest said, never surrender.
Never surrender.
Never surrender. I'd also like to say we have an event coming up at the New London Public Library, my exploratory playwriting program that meets at the same Thames Club, and it runs in coordination with Flock Theater, Flock Makerspace, and the Gard Art Center. At the New London Public Library on the 22nd of April, 1 p.m. in the community room. These are known as one-character wonders. My students, they create a single character who is caught up in a state of angst, struggles mightily with it, and then it gets resolved for better or worse. And the character talks directly to the audience, appeals to the audience, as though the audience is that character's confidant, the compadre.
I love that.
These are very engaging. We've done, SEC TV filmed them a couple of times. We've been at the Guard, the Dragon's Egg.
You're getting your name out there, and
my students work hard.
Absolutely.
I meet with them tonight, and they're rehearsing and preparing for that presentation. And God bless the New London Public Library. Young gentleman there named Tom Kramer is in charge of events, and he's helping us set this one up. So we hope to see people there.
Okay, thank you, Nick. Thank you again. Good job.